Welcome to the Temple of Flame. On today, Faith Blacklights, we take a look at this. And what this is the yin yang sauce. Now, this is it's a basic, but not entirely simple concept, that of yin and yang. The idea being that there is two separate and distinct elements that together complement while contrasting and make a unifying whole, which is what we see here. We see it epitomized between light and dark. With that one, you cannot have the other in this respect. And you can, it extends to a lot of things. It extends to like sweet and sour on the food side, to biology and physiology, in terms of mating different species and so on. Or you can just kind of listen to the opening credit song of an 80s sitcom called The Facts of Life. They're all sort of in that same intertwining thing. So I've seen this here and there for a while, this particular sauce. And it never, like, I looked at the ingredients a few times, it never really struck me as, it never grabbed me, I guess. And I think I found it on sale somewhere. And I obeyed the label to try this sauce. So this is out of Boulder, Colorado. Making it one slow batch at a time. They're very cool. So we have hot fire roasted peppers, and we have cool organic fruit. But somehow we have smokiness in here, which is maybe from the fire roasting of the peppers, possibly. Let's look at the ingredients. We've got vinegar, we've got raisins. So right there we have the sort of astringent and the sweet. Raisins tend to be concentrated nuggets of sweetness for the most part. We have habanero, we have spices, and we have salt. Salt would also contrast with the sweet. But then there's the smokiness on top of everything. And there may be a general, it is not honestly very prominent, but there may be a general sort of umami in there as well. Like flavors, I think they're trying to balance a lot of things all at once. And honestly, I'm not super sure how successful it actually is. I do appreciate the concept though. And I mean, this is a readily identifiable graphic. Like you see this in a lot of places. I see people get tattoos of it. You know, the idea of balance. So we have a sort of light, maybe more like a medium brown. It is, I guess, somewhat Malay-ish in how it looks, or you could maybe liken it to a sort of lighter version, maybe of a steak sauce. Actually, it's not too distant from Heinz 57. That is a sauce I've never particularly enjoyed, but it does bear somewhat of a resemblance to that. I mean, it looks fine. It's very smooth. It's a sort of a medium thick sauce, as you saw as well. So having the main fruit be dehydrated grapes is just Honestly, I find it slightly puzzling. I mean, it's very, very unique, though. I can't think of any other hot sauce that does that. There are, of course, steak sauces that utilize raisins, but an actual hot sauce, it's a little bit of an anomaly in that regard. But let's get on into it. Yeah, it's like definitely a lighter, somewhat spicier, maybe a little bit smokier version of A1 in a lot of respects. And I think calling this a hot sauce, I have tried this on, where I would use like a hot sauce, so, chicken tendies and some other stuff. And this, I wouldn't use A1 on those things either, because the tendency is for it to be overpowered. And I kind of think that's what's happening here. There's some very prominent flavors here. I mean, it's fairly well rounded. It is, to their credit, it is balanced, but I think it's balanced towards that sort of end result, if that makes sense. So once I kind of came to that conclusion, I decided that probably this would be best as a grill sauce. And it's always good to have a little bit of smoke when you're grilling stuff. I don't think there's, even on vegetables, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a little bit of smoke into the food. That's kind of the point. So here we have a cheeseburger with aged white cheddar. So this I put under the cheese. It is between the cheese and the burger. Now these burgers are something called bork. Bork is, as you might expect, a combination of beef and pork. And I guess it's kind of our own statement that that's where we are these days, mixing the two meats together. But I mean, it's, like $4 a pound, so. And we'll throw it here on this one. These are just the usual salt pepper burgers. I find that you really, for me anyway, I don't need a lot more than that, because I really want the Maillard effect. That's really, really what I'm after. But I've never, and I don't know what percentage is what as far as ground beef versus ground pork. I did notice that these cook somewhat oddly. And yeah, this honestly, I don't know if there's a lot of ground beef in this. Like it's, so if you get ground pork, if you get like cube steak and pork, if you get a pork chop, when you cook it, there's a lightening of the meat. It tends to go a lot whiter than does like the red meat of ground beef. That's what this looks like. Honestly, flavor-wise, whatever percentage they're using, it is definitely skewed much more heavily towards the pork. Now, think about that. The red meat of burgers is a fairly strong flavor. If you have a mix where it's almost entirely absent, I don't know. I mean, call it bork, that's fine. But it's almost like the ground beef is just there so that they don't have to call it just ground pork. It's not bad. It is a lot lighter on flavor than burgers tend to be. One of the other issues with this is I think the meats cook at different speeds also. I don't really like undercooked hamburger particularly, but I really don't like undercooked pork. And I think there's a fine line that you have with those. And I think ground beef is somewhat more forgiving. It's by no means bad on this. And the burger itself is fine. But I could actually use a little bit more heat in this as a hot sauce. There was one of the I don't know if it still exists or not, but I remember A1 had a variation at one time of A1 Bold, which was, I think, a combination of black pepper, and there's something called Hot Shot out the time, which was like a combination of like black pepper and maybe like a red pepper, like a peri peri or something. This kind of reminds me of that as far as the heat level. It has that little bit of graininess as well that A1 has. I think this would benefit though from some umami. There's a little bit here that's added to it with the meat, but it's still just not all the way there. All right, let's try it with some cheese. I did a Pepper X steak sauce from Smokin' Heads. Some time ago, and that sauce was completely different. Warmed up and cooked in a little bit versus out the bottle. So when I think stuff needs to be on the grill, that's another thing I like to test. This is actually pretty good. That aged sharp cheddar was definitely the way to go. It is complementing this extremely nicely. I got a really nice crust on this particular burger. Sometimes I outdo myself. Super good, yeah. And this isn't the sauce saving it by any means. This is already a very good thing. And this is just melding in and amplifying it. So in that respect, it does live up to the name of the sauce. I do think I am going to reserve this as a grill sauce, so to me it's just, it reads as too much of it as a steak sauce. And I have tried it in other settings, and I can't say I was super fond of it there, but definitely here it's excellent. So this bolsters my earlier point that this could do with some umami, because it is adding a depth and a richness of flavor here, which is what this needs. Very innovative idea. Again, I think this is another one where the marketing is kind of off. And I understand why they don't want to press that point particularly, because making a steak sauce is a condiment that is fairly narrow. Hot sauce is a lot broader, so to sell more bottles, I presume they're erring on that side. I think I have some of that Pepper X steak sauce left. I think I'm going to try mixing the two. I suspect that would be pretty interesting. Again, so we have more of a yin there to complete the yang, so to speak, potentially. All right, well, I mean, I can't really say it's a 1-0 because there are definitely a lot more flavors there than 1. I do kind of feel, though, like this one is definitely fairly narrow in applications. Like, for instance, I wouldn't... I mean, I think A1 is... It definitely is not as strong of a flavor as A1, but I think that is the correct analogy. Would you put A1 on a pizza? Not likely. Would you put A1 in, like, a mac and cheese? Also probably not likely. Would you put A1 on some of them dear chicken tendies or wings? Probably not. The A1 needs the richness of red meat to really balance it effectively. And I kind of feel like that is the case here with this. I am going to actually try to get real hamburger next time. The bork thing was interesting. I'd never had it before. And I don't mind it, but I really kind of feel like it maybe has colored things a little bit. And I think this is going to do better with like a red meat. So that will be the next attempt. And of course, also I'm going to try mixing it with the Pepper X steak sauce from Smokin' Ed's as well, just to kind of see what happens when I do that. But that'll be more, I'm running out of grill season as I record this quickly too. So if you want to look, you're going to have to look back, but if you go to the community section right here on the youtubes.com, you can see a lot of the pictures I posted from my experimental test kitchen. And depending on how those come out, those might wind up in a photo. And then usually I write a little blurb or two about the pictures in question. So check back there if you're interested. Just another little bit of content that I like to indulge in every once in a while. But yeah, I think for this one, heat is very moderate. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a hot sauce, but to me it is way more of a steak sauce than a hot sauce. And I'll just leave it right there. So that was the Yin Yang hot sauce. Number 4. In peace. To serve the flame.